Hey, welcome back to the X podcast. Kevin, you're back.
I'm back.
He's back.
He's back.
Thanks for having me.
We said we'd record another one.
Yeah, we said we were recording another one. Here's the thing. So a few weeks ago, we had just, I don't know, threw out a lot of guesses, a lot of pontifications around will President Biden drop out? What's going to happen heading into the fall? Since that time, President Biden has removed himself from the upcoming election.
You think he removed himself?
Conspiracies already.
I think he was cornered at his house by a couple people in love and made a corresponding decision. But he is going to be out of the election.
Well, I will say one of the reasons, like we both read the article that he did drop out, was that a couple very close friends came to him at, where is it? Where is his house? The Hamptons or whatever. Where's
Delaware.
That? Is it Delaware?
Rehoboth Beach.
Is it Rehoboth Beach? Wherever.
No, I think it's in
It's
eastern
Rehoboth Beach.
Mississippi.
Okay. And they showed up and basically showed him on the polls that there is no path to victory.
Yeah, which I feel like we all knew, but
We did kind of all know.
yeah. So that happened, and then I had said on that podcast because we said, well, what if he drops out? And I said, well, the dumbest thing that he could do is put Kamala Harris in, since she has had such horrible
Favorability rating.
favorability, and
PR,
nobody's know who she is. And I said, because that's what they'll probably do. And so that is what they've done. But surprisingly, she has shown incredible momentum in the polls.
Big time.
And I understand like some of the reasons behind that. She would be the first. She'd be a lot of firsts.
Yeah.
First
Female?
female president. First president of Asian descent. And so there's a lot there. And so then, as of this recording yesterday, she announced her VP. There's been a lot of, guesses on that. I thought she was going to go with old Pete. She did not.
You thought?
I thought.
I thought for sure it was Josh Shapiro.
I thought for sure it
Pennsylvania's
was
governor.
Taylor Swift.
Yes, but you don't like Taylor Swift.
I don't. Right, what does that change anything?
Yeah.
That's what I
Oh,
thought
man.
it
The
was.
one thing we
Could you
all
imagine if
knew
you?
is she would pick an old white guy.
Goodness.
There was articles about that
Goodness.
that they wanted to be able to.
Gotta love identity politics.
And
Really
so I
is.
just, all that to say, Kevin, wherever you want to begin to riff,
Yes.
what's
I
standing
will
out
say
to you?
this. I'm a political nerd. We talked about it on this show.
Yeah.
I love talking politics with you guys because I like to make you feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And
Well,
politics is my sport. And
my
I no
answer half the
longer-
time will be no comment.
I know. I no longer, am employed by this church, so I have a little bit more freedom, to say things. But I'll try to be nice.
Oh.
I will say this. What a time in American politics.
Yeah.
Great TV.
The debate was amazing TV, and I cannot wait for the next.
Do we want our politics to be great TV? Probably not, but it is great
But
TV.
You know what? I always keep hearing in my mind a line from you. Was it 2020? We were all at, was it PZ's house?
Yeah.
Watching all this.
Mhm.
And it was, my nerves were racked. And I look over at you, and they got quiet, and you go, I just love the pageantry.
I do.
I did remember
I
that.
love it. I'm up till 3 in the morning, watch these elections. Listen, it is amazing. But let's talk about the last couple weeks. I know you guys talked about it a couple
Should it
episodes
be like
ago.
the West Wing?
Listen, I've watched those shows too. And I think what we're learning is that it might be more like that than we realize. But, okay, so we've got timeline. Joe Biden, President Biden, right? Everyone's saying he should drop out. He's losing in the polls. He said, I'm not dropping out. I'm not dropping out. I'm not dropping out. They go to debate. I don't know what happened. It almost seems choreographed that when I was shocked. I turned on CNN. I'm like, oh, my gosh, they're all turning on him.
Yeah.
And it's like
The
immediate.
end was more exciting almost than the debate.
I
watching
know,
all
watching
the
the
pundits.
coverage. But, I watch CNN every single night. I won't tell you what side I'm on, but let's just say
I'm sure we'll be.
probably not that side. But anyway, but I like to watch them because I like the back and forth. I like to hear what they're saying. And I'm very open to be convinced about different things.
Would you, I don't even know if you'd say this, what you are,
Yeah.
but would you say you're a libertarian?
No. I would say
He's got Republican red blood running through him.
I would. Well, here's what I would say. I am for a strong leader who can manage an economy. Anybody who told me that they had a plan to pay down national debt, I'd vote for. Anybody who told me that they would want to cut entitlements, I'd vote for. Anyone who told me that their main goal is peace in the Middle East and like to end these forever wars, I'd vote for.
Sounds like Miss America.
Right. You know. And
if she were running, he'd vote for her.
But if that's what she said she'd do, I'd
Yeah.
vote for her. Anybody that like seems right now, it's like so rare for someone to have a freaking plan.
Yeah.
It's like, okay,
We
just
went through a whole debate and didn't get one
great.
plan.
Yeah, anyway,
Yeah.
I'll get to that. So let's just go through the timeline real quick. Now that you know about me, so we have Joe Biden debate. Everybody turns on him. His party wants him to back down. There's no chance you're going to win. Like I said, almost seemed choreographed, right? I watched CNN every single night, and until that moment, they hadn't said anything like that. And his debate performance wasn't
You think
like
it just-
far off from what he has been
This is
the
why
past year.
I was
Oh,
shocked.
but it was.
No.
it was not that far off.
It's not. That's why I said this was funny, and this is where I said I don't know if the algorithm bit them in the butt because they're
Yeah.
all probably Democrats and are on there. You know what? I'm like, we've seen this for years. Like this is not a surprise, and all of them were just. I remember when it was over, they were like, I don't know what we just watched.
It's
I'm
like,
like,
well, you haven't been watching.
what haven't you
And
seen?
he
You
hasn't
haven't
talked to
seen
the
it.
media.
Okay,
Have you
whatever.
seen him ride a bike?
Okay,
Have
let
you
me
not?
do the
Okay,
timeline.
okay,
Just
right.
do the timeline. We'll get to that. Okay, so more of the story. Democrat Party turns on him, says you're getting out, and up to the point of the day that he sent out his post on X that he was going to resign via a letter, which I thought was strange in and of itself. That morning, his staffers are on all the morning Sunday shows saying he is not leaving. We are in this until the end. We are going to fight. Dr. Jill Biden, First Lady, was out at a rally the night before. We are in this until the end. We are going to fight. And then Sunday afternoon, that very next day, that very same day in some cases, I was sitting with family. We had like a pool party at my aunt's house. I'm like, oh my gosh, he stepped down. That's crazy. Wonder what they're going to do.
Step down from running. He did not step down from finishing his presidency.
And so he's going to remain president. And then they came out and said that Kamala Harris is going to be the new nominee because there's some question. Because 6 months ago, they said that the narrative was she is the most unpopular vice president in the history of our country. And they had talked about when Biden was deciding to run for the nomination, CNN, MSNBC, ABC, NBC. I watch this stuff every single day. The narrative was, can they replace her? Because they put her. Joe Biden was very clear that he wanted to have a certain type of person to be his vice president. So what message would it send? Blah 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 blah. So is he going to keep her on the ticket? And if you remember, he came out and said, I'm going to do this with Kamala. She is my, because he had to make a statement because that's how big the noise was.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So that same person is now the Democrat nominee for
Is
president.
it official? Has the
Well, not official.
but she has the delegates.
Right. We are very close. She has the delegates.
She has enough.
For whatever reason, right? She has the delegates, and she's picked her potential running mate, who's the governor of Minnesota, Tim Walz, who it was a surprise pick.
Yeah.
Very, very much a surprise pick. Whew. Oh, yeah, and Donald Trump got shot in the ear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Lots of crazy stuff.
Okay, let's start here. Why did the Democratic Party not open it up for
Money,
those?
right?
I mean, technically, it is open. Their rules are that they have to vote on it. So,
Yeah, but there's been no grassroots movement. It's just
well, no, it's because she got the delegates so quickly, and then she also got all of these leaders to back her. And as soon as you had the final one that pushed it over for sure for everybody was Obama.
Yeah.
The moment she had,
Especially because everybody thought
she had Joe Biden support.
Michelle
he came
Obama
out
would
the
be the
next one. That's what we all thought. Maybe
yeah, but I feel like President Obama did that, or former President Obama did that once. A week or two had passed, and it was obvious she was going to be it. And
Correct.
it was obvious they
He
weren't
was
gonna
late
open
to
it
the
up.
he was
party.
very late to the
Yes.
party.
I don't think he wanted
He was
her.
very late. I think this is my opinion. I think that this is politics. This is what you do. She needs people's votes. What do? I'm going to be the next president. What do you need? That's how you do it. You buy your delegates.
Yep.
I guarantee this is how it works. So what did she do immediately? This is politics. She went behind closed doors and she began to have conversations with Pelosi. She began to have conversation with them. What can't we get? What's not getting done? What do you want? This is how it works. This is how it works in the House. This is how it works in Congress. We saw this when they ousted, what's his name as the House minority leader.
Kevin McCarthy.
Yeah, and it was all a matter of, well, are you going to vote on this for us? Are you going to do this? That's how politics
Of course,
works.
the
So-
right called this a coup. Was it a coup?
Clearly. It was clearly a coup. And it's not like in an overthrow way, but I mean, even when they poll Democratic voters, the their biggest frustration is it wasn't an open process.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
Like that's the biggest negative to this whole change. I think they're at the end of the day, they're like they'll fall in line. I like I do like the switch, it's whatever, but like we would have had a say.
Yeah.
Because, and that is what CNN pollsters that they put on air say about their own party. So I'm not saying that from a different perspective. I think that, it nullifies a lot of their argument. Who knows if it'll be an effective argument for the other side, but you're saying that the other side is a threat to democracy. And no one voted for her. And when they had a chance to vote for her for the nomination 4 years ago, she didn't even make it to Iowa.
Yeah, didn't have enough.
To the Iowa caucus. And 6 months ago, we were talking about replacing her as vice president. So, who knows if that argument will stand up? I don't think it will. I think that the biggest revelation in all this is anybody who pays any attention to this, you see the power of the Democratic media machine, because they have been repainting her in a light that, I'm not saying it's untrue, but the question is it effective?
Mm-hmm.
And early signs are that it is effective.
Yeah. You don't feel like it's just as powerful on both sides, though?
No. I'll say this.
It's just funny to watch. Like even with Kamala's, like it's just like you. It's just so fun to watch the narratives on both sides. Tim Walz, is put in, and you see all. I was watching, was it Jon Stewart on the Daily Show showing all the things that everybody on the left was saying about Tim Walz. Always amazing, amazing, amazing. And then there was somebody on Fox that said he's about to unleash all hell. It's just so funny to watch the two different depictions.
Yeah, well,
Same with Kamala.
I'll say this. So, I thought it was a train wreck of a moment for Trump, but got to give him credit. He went and sat at a live in person, the National Association for Black Journalists.
Oh,
and he answered their questions.
That was pretty bad.
And there was like hearing issues, and he had a problem. He always has a problem. People try to like come after him with questions, and his problem is they don't treat his opposition the same way. And he said, "You know why I'm here?" I think that there was a horrible way that he said most of the stuff that he said. Okay, but that's Donald Trump. He said while he was in an interview, he goes, "Do you know why I'm here?" He goes, "Because you guys said my opponent would be here." And I said, "Well, could I Zoom? Because I got another campaign stop." And you said, "No, we'll have to do it in person." And for her, you're doing a Zoom. So did you just lie to my campaign, or do you want to treat me like what's the deal here? And I'll say this. He gets in those environments and risks having these potentially horrible moments. And, for example, Kamala Harris hasn't done, this is what the Republicans are starting to say, she hasn't done one sit-down interview with a 60 Minutes, with a CNN.
But didn't she want to debate Trump and he pulled out?
No, there is a debate.
There's debate.
There's a debate.
Okay, well,
no, they agreed to it.
Switched.
No, I heard it was
last
agreed
week
to.
he had said, no, I won't do it.
I heard it was agreed to.
Well, but here's my thing, too. So let's just say this. But let's talk about that point.
Okay.
Say what you want about Donald Trump. He does put himself in those situations. And he answers the questions, whether you like his answer or not. At least he gives you the content to make a decision. The other side, we haven't for 2 years really seen the president. He sat down for an interview with Lester
I would
Holt.
disagree that he answers the questions, though.
Right.
I mean, if you look at the beginning of that interview, he didn't answer any of their questions.
He
just attacked.
There's content out there for people to make a decision either way, whether they agree or disagree with what he's doing, right? And I think that is the biggest downfall and the biggest plus side to Donald Trump is he is who he is, and you see who he is, and he doesn't change, right? And so you can hate that, love that, vote for it, not vote for it. But on the other side, we have a sitting president. It's amazing just from a historical perspective. When he was, you remember when everybody thought that he was dead? A couple weeks ago, that was the big conspiracy theory. He was at his beach in Delaware. He put out the letter that he was not going to continue with his campaign, and he didn't make a public appearance for 6 days.
Yeah. I didn't know about the public, but I know that
he had COVID.
Yep, he had COVID. Didn't make a public appearance for 6 days.
There was a lot of rumors that he was way sicker than people thought.
Well, when you don't make a public, step out on your front porch and wave, or something.
Yeah,
you don't make a public appearance.
Put something out on Twitter, which we know that you are not the only one that controls your Twitter account, and you don't post anything on Twitter.
Exactly.
Right. Someone else didn't post for you.
And the interesting thing is we have all of these connections to, Trump was our last president, so you compare a lot to him. And even Obama would show up in the press briefing room, right? And he would have a moment with these White House correspondents where they could ask him questions directly. It would happen often. Trump, I mean, especially during COVID, every day he's having a 4 p.m. press conference where he is answering questions directly from it. Why are you doing that? Why are you doing that? Okay, well, let's go here. And he was there. I don't think that President Biden has been in the press briefing room even one time to hold an interview.
Probably a wise decision.
Right.
Yeah.
We've seen.
But I'm not saying
he's
that
not. He's deteriorating.
But like
Badly.
as it's just and what do you think? Do you think the American people notice that? Do you think I'm over analyzing that aspect of the differences?
No, I agree with you on that. I think, and maybe this goes back a little bit to what you're saying about the debate, the last debate, because to me, I'm kind of in between. I'm in between the CNN reaction and what y'all are saying. CNN acted like it was the first they'd heard of this. But where I would maybe differ with y'all is I think the reason that night was so shocking is because I do, and I know like y'all do too, I watch both sides. Again, Jon Stewart coming back for this election has been like my like therapeutic, like saving grace. And I've watched the videos of both Biden's stumbles and Trump's stumbles with words. Now, Biden's has been progressively worse, but he has moments of strength. But I think going into that night of the debate, number one, knowing, okay, President Biden has been at Camp David or wherever preparing for this, supposedly resting up, supposedly getting ready for this debate, and then comes, and that is the worst I'd ever seen him. Like, I mean, I've seen moments that are bad, but that was the worst I'd ever seen him. And Trump, to his credit, from a performative standpoint, was strong. And you see those two side by side, and it was just vivid, and the contrast was just disturbing. And so I do think in those moments, yes, people are like, I want strength. Like, I want somebody that's present. I want somebody that's strong. I think it really goes down. I think it's going to come down to at the end. People are going to look at policy and look at character. And
Well, I am
decisions.
very interested to hear the new tickets policy.
Yeah.
Because we're 16 days in, and I listened intently. I just listened to the when they brought Tim. It's a rally setting, and it was I actually liked the speeches. I thought the speeches were done well. I thought they were great political moments for them, for sure. And I found them both more likable, you know, in that moment. And it's like, what policy did they even talk about? They were talking about uniting the country, which is great. But it will be very interesting to see if they even run on policy. Because if you remember, Joe Biden's 2020 campaign was to not campaign and let Donald Trump go make mistakes. That was his campaign. Remember, they called it the basement campaign. And it was 2020, and it was COVID, so he could just stay in his basement, right?
Yeah.
And it won him the election, and he was quiet. And that's how he governed, too. You didn't see a lot of him, you know? And for this campaign, the record, if you were to say to anybody in I mean, say what you want about Donald Trump, too. I understand that. But just talk about to predict the 2024 ticket back in 2020. We have in 2020, Kamala Harris was like they were anticipating her being the next Barack Obama, right? They were in that primary that was really big. Joe Biden wasn't supposed to win at all. Bernie Sanders, maybe a lot of people like him, but Kamala Harris was supposed to be the thing because she had that support and she had all that momentum going in. She didn't even make it to Iowa, the Iowa caucus in that nomination. And what did it was her unpopularity. Like, she came across as disingenuous, came across as not prepared, came across as not having the proper experience, and especially in a time where the more liberal leftist agenda was like defund the police and all these things,
socialism and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, she got eaten alive by her own party, and also the governor of the state that George Floyd had died in, the one that probably had the craziest amount of rioting. I know you say Portland, Oregon, but I mean,
Portland was pretty bad too.
When you look at the video, I go back and look at the video of Minnesota and Minneapolis in 2020, and I saw a thing on Twitter. It's like, you might think this is Iraq, and after we bombed them, you might think this is Afghanistan after we bombed them. Nope, this is Minneapolis in 2020, burned to the ground. And to think that like that ticket, whether or not you agree with what they say or their policy or not, that's kind of crazy. What a crazy place we were in. Short memory we have.
Yeah.
Will there be a peaceful transition of power?
Sure. Absolutely there will be. Absolutely. Either way, I think there will be.
Yeah.
So how about this? I think it's interesting because something that kind of gives texture to this election is truth. What is truth? And we're at a time in the world where it's really hard to understand what is true and what's not.
Yeah.
My hypothesis, I'm going to put it out there, let you guys speak on it. My hypothesis about Donald Trump is the reason he's still around is because there has been so many, I think about the Russian collusion investigation.
Yeah. It was found to be false.
Found to be false.
Yeah. Fabricated.
Exactly. And even around January 6th, in the censorship from social media that he experienced, now it's come out that these independent journalists have come out and say the FBI and the CIA had direct communication with people from Twitter and Facebook and Google and directly censored what he said, directly. The President of the United States. Whether or not you like or that, what? In America, it's crazy. So you have he has so many times, even all these cases that have been brought against him. Okay. He just got dismissed of the elections case, the election fraud case.
Yeah.
They dismissed the case. They dismissed it. They dropped it.
Tell me the one in Georgia. Or are you talking about the one I know that was dismissed first was the one in Florida, right?
The one in Florida.
The one in Florida
was
was
the big
dismissed,
one.
which was the one with the documents.
Which was the big one.
Right. And
Yeah, the
Mar-a-Lago.
documents
That's the one that
also
got
dismissed.
dismissed. That one did. I haven't heard if the Georgia one got dismissed.
The Georgia one got dismissed.
Oh, did it really?
Yeah.
Oh, I hadn't heard that.
Georgia one got
I'm probably not
dismissed.
following that closely.
All these going to be.
Well, and even the ones where he
94
was
counts.
convicted, they're filing an appeal based on the Supreme Court's change.
Yeah, and
on that. Which again, some people again, just from an outsider's perspective, I don't follow those that much, but there's a lot of people. What do you think about that decision? Because a lot of people think it's because there are a lot of people think that, well, wait, when you get to stack the Supreme Court with people who are going to lean your way politically, then they're going to change and do things that's going to affect and impact you politically.
Well, it's why do you think there's 9 Supreme Court justices? Why didn't they do 10?
Because you can't have a deadlock.
So you're saying that sometimes you're going to disagree with most of the things that the court does, and sometimes you're going to agree with most of the things the court does.
Mm-hmm.
That's how it was designed.
Sure.
A fiercely independent judiciary, right? I could say a lot of things, but to finish my statement on truth, right, is that the reason that a figure like Donald Trump can stay around for so long, well, I do think he is divisive to a certain extent. I don't think he is who everyone says that he was, and I do think that he was a. You look at, we had peace in the world. Right? All of the negative statistics that are brought against him, like, oh, the economy was worse under Trump. We lost this many jobs under Trump, and violent crime was up under Trump. Do you know why? It's because COVID.
2020. Well, and 2020.
Everything is skewed because of the COVID years that he governed through.
Sure.
And I don't think that he governed ineffectively, which is crazy. I think that does he have the tact to be able to tell people that, though, to vote for him? I don't know. Is the other party better at painting the picture?
What does that have to do with truth, though?
Because
what was
you
your
shape
statement?
Truth. The point is that the reason people still give him a chance is because there is enough doubt to see. I'm not saying that this is. I'm just saying, like, January 6th, there's a whole contingency of people that say the FBI was involved.
Yeah, I just
right?
don't think that has anything to do with the people that support him. I don't think people. I think the diehard Trumpers, it does not matter what you would present, they're going to support him. I think.
Would you consider me a diehard Trumper?
No. But I just think that I think our nation is echo chambered enough, and I think divided enough, and I think Trump has a cult-like enough following that, I mean, the people I know, it does not, going back to what he said, he could shoot somebody in the middle of the street. I think there has been enough evidence of things he's done that are egregious that the people that would follow him no matter what, it doesn't really matter. It seems to be. That said, I don't even know if on either side, I mean, when you look back at the debate, Trump and Biden, fact checkers, both of them lied a good bit.
I will say this. great point on truth. Fact checkers.
Yeah.
Anybody I feel like with common sense that watches a CNN fact check on Donald Trump, it's like they're lying during the fact check. It's like I can't. It's like it goes beyond common sense. Like I wish we could pull it up and talk through it like line by line. And it's like Trump indicated that he might. That's not true. He didn't indicate that he might. Whatever Project 2025 because it's like he has said from a stage that he has not directed whether he is or not, whether he's lying. Like you can't just say, well, they're making these like really false connections on things to say Trump lied 39 times.
Yeah.
It's like
some of the fact checking, I agree. I think this is the conundrum we're in right now in our world of information is how do you know what is actually true? Because I don't know that you can trust the fact checkers. Here's a great example. There was a clip that showed up, just like a random one it was an interview that Tucker Carlson did with a journalist. I don't know if you saw that. It was in Australia. And so he's speaking at something, and there's a journalist who basically questioned him about replacement theory and basically said, you've said, Tucker Carlson, on your show that you believe that what's happening in America and all this is part of what's called the Great Replacement Theory, that whites are being replaced by people of color and other thing are going to be the minority, all this. Like she says all this. And he just looks at her and goes, wait, you said I said that? He said, when did I say that? She goes, well, it's been said over 4,000 times on your show. And he said, okay, pull it up and show me because I've never said that because I don't believe that.
But he's done that. I mean, he did that about the Hillary locker up. He's like, I've never said that. And they pulled up like clip after clip after clip after clip of him.
Do you know what they chanted last night?
What?
Lock him up. Lock him up. So it's like, I just like.
I'm talking about when it comes to truth.
No, but I'm saying.
And did he lock her up?
But I'm saying he
No,
explained.
I'm saying he said that he didn't say that. He said, I've never said that.
So
then they show clip after clip after clip of him saying that.
So I will say this. To say that Donald Trump has never lied is a lie. He absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
But also to say that politicians, if you were to put an overgeneralized blanket on them, is that most of them
all lie
are liars.
Yes, they all.
I don't
say
disagree
things.
with that. I would say, yeah.
I'm just saying. I think that what I'm saying about the thing with Tucker Carlson is that he was like, I've never said that. I never said this about. He said I said about Americans and about this. I didn't say about white Americans. I didn't again. So there was a twisting of what has been said on his show and manipulation that's turned into a fact check.
The Charlottesville.
That's what I'm saying.
You know that quote on Charlottesville? They always say that Trump said that the white supremacists, some were good people.
Yeah. Yes, I've heard that.
You know, I actually like agreed with one side on it until I saw the whole video, like probably 3 months ago. I watched the whole video. I never seen it. Watch the whole video, and you'll see he like clearly condemns the white supremacists. Clearly, he's like, I condemn all of that in this. Like he doesn't. It's not like a stretch to say that. Like he literally said it out. Like, and then what they've been running for 2 years is that he says that the white supremacists are good people. Now I don't know what he believes. I don't know. It's just the concept of how we try to win on lying about the other party and the other candidate instead of on substance.
Yes, I agree.
Like on substance, how are you going to lead the country? I'm really frustrated at that.
This is the problem, I think, where we are in politics today. Because I left even the last presidential debate going, I didn't hear what anybody was going to do.
Yep.
Yeah.
At all.
There's no vision for the future.
I heard who can hit. I mean, and I will say, I've since watched a full episode of Donald Trump playing a round of golf with Bryson DeChambeau.
Wow.
And let me just tell you, he's a good golfer, and he would destroy Joe Biden in golf.
Yes, that's
Not
for
that
sure.
it has anything to do with who should be president.
Add
I'm
that to
just
the fact
saying,
check.
Donald Trump, the one spot I can guarantee you that he was not lying about on
He
that
wasn't
debate
lying.
was the golf. It's an odd-looking swing, but let me
You
tell
see
you,
my post
I
that
would
night?
not want to play him. He looks actually really good
Did
at
you
golf.
see my post that night?
No,
I said, for the
I-
record,
yeah, you did.
For the
I
record,
saw it.
I'm
Oh,
an
you
18 handicap.
yeah. Like, to me, I was going to say, I don't think he was lying. I watched on there, and he can hit a straight ball. I
it
would
was
not
very
want to play
impressive,
golf
actually.
with him. I'm actually pretty impressed
Very impressive.
with his golfing.
It's, you know,
Has
it's
something
like
to do with
this
presidents.
idea of America of going. The truth about Donald Trump is they have thrown the entire system at him through impeachments and through the FBI investigations. You know, they have thrown the entire system at him, and I'm shocked that he's made it through.
Whether any of that is deserved or not,
Right.
what you're saying is that it has been used.
They have,
And that it's been
and I don't
used
mean like
against
they've
them.
tried to put him in jail. There have been government agencies that have brought investigations of him that have.
Okay, so let me ask you this, because and I don't know, but you're the one who keeps. I kind of plead a little bit of ignorance on this. I follow some of it loosely. I've got this, but I don't go into the weeds like you do, and I don't watch CNN or Fox or any of them 24/7 at all.
I don't watch Fox at all, actually.
Okay, so when you again, so maybe tell me if this has been your experience with this narrative, because there were a lot, the Russian case and other things that really came out to be determined were false, and now, whenever something like that was used, and I don't remember a whole lot of during former President Trump's administration of this being flipped the other way, except I hear people trying to say the Hunter Biden case was a Republican version or Donald Trump version of that. Do you remember any of that where they was going after Hunter Biden because of his connections with China and how it was being used to?
Yeah.
Do you remember any of that? Like, because
During the Trump presidency?
yeah, that for some reason,
No. I mean, during the
I
campaign,
don't-
maybe of Trump, that last part of
this
Trump's
last part of
presidency,
it.
they were definitely trying to. But think about here's the things where I feel like the Democrat Party, both parties do this to a certain extent, but I feel like why a lot of voters are like, I'd vote for anyone that's not them, is because I feel like they have the censorship. I think is that is a cardinal sin in America, the censorship.
Yeah.
And if you remember the debates of 2020, when Donald Trump, who was going through it, man, at the time, what a bad stretch for him through 2020, and the way he was talking about, when the looting starts, the shooting starts, and this is real visceral language that I hated the way he handled that.
Yeah.
And then you look at during the debates where he talks about Hunter Biden's laptop.
Sure.
Right? And there's this laptop, and the moderator steps in. That is that's misinformation, sir. There is no proof that the laptop even exists. He's literally, the laptop absolutely existed, 100%. Like that was not at all true. And so, however you feel about both things, it's just like I mean, there's so many other things.
It's probably, maybe one way to say it is, I think maybe even whether you hate Trump or love Trump, one thing that's probably happened is he's not set himself up well. I think by being a bully for so long, there's probably moments, again, love him or hate him, where it's like, oh, he actually has a valid point, but he has so divorced himself from any empathy that people step in. I heard somebody say the other day that one of the reasons that another reason people may like Trump and may be supporting Trump in this season is when you begin to bully the bully begins to look like a victim. And so that may be part of it, because I think there are a lot of people. It's just interesting how you look at it, because for you, for some people they'll say, okay, the whole system's thrown at them. They're manipulating the system to persecute him. Other people look at it as, oh my gosh, justice is finally starting to catch up with the guy, but he slips through everything still.
I would say that the media and a lot of the government agencies have done everything they can, not just to paint him as a bully, liar, traitor to the country, but they threat to democracy, all these things.
Yep.
And because they are predatory on talking points and went and did the FBI investigation without facts. Like they went in, Russia collusion without facts. Turns out that the Democrat Party paid for the Russian dossier. Okay? That is fact. They don't deny it. Okay? And so now we're saying, Russia, all that stuff that Donald Trump talks about, right? For me, I think the part is people think I'm defending Trump. I am like offended at how little they haven't been successful in their attempts to bring him down, which for me means that they didn't bring it on the basis of fact.
Did you watch the?
Whether or not he's factual in what he says.
Sure.
Like the fact that I can't comprehend it. I can't comprehend it.
I'm trying to remember the girl's name. Did you watch what was it Senator? Was it not McCain?
Oh, you're the lady from Arizona?
Yeah.
No, that's John McCain's widow. Isn't she the one?
She's not a senator.
No, the one for
Cindy McCain. You got that's his wife. What are you trying to say? What'd she say?
The whole January 6th.
Mm-hmm.
Did you watch all those proceedings?
Oh yeah. You're
Those
talking about
things-
Liz Cheney.
Liz Cheney.
Liz Cheney. That's who it was.
Mhm.
Sorry.
Because
Dick Cheney's
again,
Daughter, yeah.
daughter.
every ounce of those proceedings seem to be completely based on fact.
Right.
No.
And then when I'm not saying they weren't, because I watched those front to back.
Mm-hmm.
Front to back. And then I don't even know what happened afterwards. I think maybe the Republicans took back control of the House or something, but they released the rest of the footage.
Right.
Like there was all this footage that obviously wasn't shown.
Right.
But they released the entirety of the footage to the American public to see.
Mm-hmm.
And there's like video. Nancy Pelosi's daughter's documentarian and was with Nancy Pelosi that day. And Nancy Pelosi goes, "This is my fault. This happened under my watch. I take personally the fact that I didn't have, I turned down National Guard protection or something." I'm not quoting her verbatim, but like, and then she goes out publicly and says, "Well, no one ever offered anything like that." So it's this guy's this inability. If you think if he is everything that you say he is, you have to land some of these punches.
Mm-hmm.
But their inability to land the punches, I think, speaks to I don't know. I just
Why was one of my questions is why have so many other people connected to January 6th, stolen election, all that, been prosecuted, but not him?
well, first of all, my hunch with January 6th, and I was with you guys on that
Yeah,
day,
we were watching.
right? We were doing a podcast that day.
Mhm.
Complete disgrace for the country. Absolute disgrace for the country.
Mm-hmm.
Hated the way Donald Trump handled it.
Yep.
Hated it. And if you remember, every senator came out and said, "Oh, they're going to impeach this guy again." I totally, disavow everything he's doing. I think it speaks to the fact that people are empathetic to those people. Is there is this unignorable feeling in our country right now that certain things are setups, that certain things are influenced and staged, and there's opinions about the FBI, there's opinions about the CIA, there's just opinions, right? And everybody talks about the war industrial complex, right?
Mm-hmm.
Of all of these, we fund wars so that we can,
Right.
Lockheed Martin stocks. You have all of these senators and Congress people who are allowed to trade stocks based on they're up, thousands and thousands % on their portfolios. Nancy Pelosi's worth $282 million or something crazy like that, and she's made $150,000 for the last 45 years. Okay, so I think there's this impetus that the government owes to the people to dispel. They owe it to be transparent. And so it allows for different conspiracies to become real because the government isn't transparent enough to disavow them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So if you were to say, so I watched the Senate hearings when they interviewed the FBI and the CIA on January 6th, when all the conspiracy, quote unquote, stuff is going around about Ray Epps, this FBI agent that supposedly was instigating the violence on January 6th. That he was, come on, let's taking the bike racks and throwing it at police officers. Come on, let's go do that, blah, 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 and broke the window and blah, blah, blah. And so Ted Cruz asked the director of the FBI, does Ray Epps work for the FBI? I can't comment on that.
Yeah.
Was there any FBI involvement to instigate violence on January 6th? The FBI in a Senate hearing. I'm not at liberty to comment on that. Is it true that there was, unmarked white charter vans that showed up under the Capitol at 6 a.m. that morning due to this video? Is it true that the FBI has any connection to that? I cannot comment on that. I'm not saying that anything's true or not. I'm just saying, like, for the American people, that fund these institutions, they deserve transparency.
Yeah.
And so when it's like you can't take things at face value because I feel like people have every reason to believe that certain things are true. Do I think that every conspiracy theory is real? Do I think no? But Americans have every right to be skeptical.
There is a
Yeah, but go ahead.
No, I was just going to say one of the things that I thought would be valuable, because I mean, we're just talking about off the cuff about the political environment that we have today, but I think the sad reality is that we're in a state in America, which again, I believe in democracy. I do think it is the best human invented form of government that we have.
Yeah.
The democratic republic, democracy,
been
how
called
do
a
you want to look
miracle.
at it? I think when you line that up against totalitarian regimes and other things from the 20th century and all that, I don't think there's any denying that it's the best government system, broken and flawed as it is, for people in general. And yet we find ourselves in a unique place where there is, as we're talking about, to me, what keeps coming up to my mind and when you're talking is there's just a massive, massive distrust in general. I think when you add in social media and then all of the things like you're talking about, and the conspiracy theories really are born out of this overall distrust. How do we? So let's
little things like how the media, all the legacy media, put Joe Rogan when he had COVID and did his photo announcement. They put a yellow filter on his face to make him look more sick than he was. That happened on CNN. That happened. Like, look it up.
Yeah.
He had Sanjay Gupta on his podcast to talk about it. He said, "Why'd you do that?" He's like, "Oh,
there's a manipulation that's been happening. There's this, and so I understand. I think one of the things that I just feel is I just love listening to you guys talk about is just I feel like I don't know what to trust. I don't know who to trust. You can't trust the media. So then do you trust? There are people that have spun off of media to create their Alex Jones, to create their own podcast that I look at and go, I don't trust you either. You know what I mean? And so I don't know. A couple of things come to my mind. I'm just curious what you guys' thoughts are. Number one, how do we, as we approach this current election, because that's what we have in front of us, what is the best way, the best source, the best way for any of us to make the most educated decision on who we vote for?
Yeah.
I think this is a really good question. And then a bigger question as we back out is, how does America turn the corner on this massive distrust? Like, what do you guys think it's going to take? And this could be something that's going to take decades. It could be whatever. There need to be a change in our government system. What do you think it's going to take to turn the tide on this distrust? But let's start with this coming election. Where do you go? Because I mean, do you go to individual people's websites to I want to know what they're going to do. I really want to know, but I have a feeling that what's left of the next several months is going to be mostly it's going to be character assassination. Maybe I shouldn't use the term assassination since there was an actual attempt there, and then how many people immediately when that happened all said conspiracy theory that this was staged, right? Like, so it is total distrust.
Total distrust. I would say this. I like the idea if you want to get educated in the 90 days as we're filming this up until the election, you pick a more left-leaning media source, you pick a more right-leaning media source, and you pick a independent media source like a Joe Rogan's a great one to listen to. I think when you hear the difference of opinion, I believe that most people are smart. I believe that most people have common sense. I believe that most people, I think that is how you get a sense of what's true and what's untrue. Because if you even flip between the channels of Fox News and CNN, if the skew on this is so different, then you know that neither side is probably telling you the truth about it. Okay? And so where's the truth? It lies somewhere in the middle, and you have to discern what's important to you, what's a voting issue for you, and there's two lies. Like, let's talk about, not to get into all the topic, but even like the topic of abortion, both sides are lying about both sides about abortion right now. Because Donald Trump's saying, the Democrats want, abortions late term, 9 months, and you got the baby on the table, and let's figure out whether or not that came from the governor of Virginia, Democrat governor of Virginia in 2016 or roughly around there talking about what he feels like abortion should be. That is not the stance of the entire party. Now, they take the stance of, well, that never happens. We're going to allow the woman and the doctor to make their decision and have the freedom to, make that decision. That's their stance. Really, it's not that's extreme. And then the Republican side, there's like, they want abortion. But what Donald Trump has said, no, I believe in the 3 exceptions and I won't enforce a national abortion ban, is what he said recently. That's his stance. And both sides are lying about both sides about that. And so guess what? When you flip through Fox News, when you flip through CNN, and then you watch Joe Rogan or whatever, you're going to get a very interesting picture, and you get to decide what you believe is true about your voting issues. So that's what I'd say.
No, I think that's great. I think maybe one of the only things I would add on to that is I think these kind of conversations.
That's a good point.
Because I think, like, and there's so much more I want to say on here, but I think, try to center myself at least a little bit. But at this table, I don't think any of the 3 of us have extremist views, but all 3 of us would be a little bit different.
For sure.
But I think it's when we get in these kind of conversations and we kind of challenge and nuance and you hear this side, I think that's when, because even I feel as we're talking, I'm like, oh, somebody's listening from our church, or they reading into this, reading into that, or getting whatever. But I think the power of having these kind of conversations is hopefully you can model what it's like to talk about these things in a calm, rational way in which you don't feel an emotional possessiveness of your idea. But you literally just say, okay, I think, you spoke to diversity of input. Have a balanced diet in what you consume and have, critical. And then I think for me, it's just so interesting, like because I always feel icky when I'm critiquing somebody. But if you were to look at, let's say it's still President Biden and President Trump, like I distrust both of them, but in different ways.
Yeah.
I distrust President Biden as a career politician who is just flip-flop back and forth and has, I feel like, just been a career politician. And there's been a lot of deception. For me, it's funny when I look at January 6th with President Trump. It's funny. It's very interesting what you said about what happened in court and the no comment. I didn't even know that. It's very fascinating. And yet the whole time for me, I'm thinking, I don't even need to know that. My frustration with January 6th is what I watched him say.
No,
what I watched
Trump say.
Without any spin.
Right, which I agree.
I watched him promote before it happened. I watched his slowness and what he said about these dear precious people the day it did happen. And I'm like, what I watch from him is what makes me distrust.
For sure.
And so part of me, there's a there's a pessimistic side of me with everybody on the political landscape right now, left and right, that causes a distrust that I'm like, I don't know where we go from here other than can we get back one day to the place in America where we're raising up great leaders?
Yeah.
Great leaders exist in America. And
but why would they want to be president?
Yeah.
Because the way they that's my point. It's like, well, you have I don't know. I just think that you have this scenario where instead of winning on merit and winning on, here's our policy, vote for us or don't vote for us. Like we have these just character discussions,
I know.
And the whole job is to paint someone's character in a certain way. That's the entire thing. And like you even get into like the sexual nature of both of these candidates. Like the Republicans are saying things about Kamala Harris. Well, here's how she got in the position she got, which, who knows if it's true or not. And then with Donald Trump, it's like, oh, well, he raped everybody and he whatever, and he's a convicted rapist and he's has 3 wives. And, like the people that know him would say different things about him. I don't know what's true. But my point is, it's like that's where we are. That's the level. That's the level of conversation we're having about the President of the United States.
What matters to you most going into this election, policy or character?
What matters most to me, policy or character? I think that what's nice about this election is that you have 2 terms to compare, and you can compare them. You know what a Donald Trump presidency would be like because you've experienced it.
Yep.
And Kamala Harris has been in the White House for 4 years, so you and she hasn't said that she's against anything that they've done.
Kind of a continuation.
Right,
Of
so
the
it's
Biden
a continuation.
administration.
So you get to decide.
Yeah.
And so everyone's going to have their own idea of where inflation comes from. You know, in my world, economics matters a ton. And I have seen, you know, I've just seen it. Like what I do, I know too much about people's finances, you know? And it is. I just can't. Every month that inflation goes up or grocery prices go up, like I can't comprehend how people can afford to live right now.
Yeah.
And so the fact that, you know, it's offensive to me if any political candidate goes on a stage and doesn't talk about how they're going to address this. And right now, Donald Trump's saying drill, baby, drill. That's like his whole policy on energy, right? And then you go to the other side, they just don't mention it, right? Hopefully they do mention it in the coming
the
weeks.
economy is the best it's been in a very long time. And then
For-
we've added more
yeah.
jobs than the previous administration added in just the last year.
And it's like that is an offensive statement to me.
Sure.
Because
It's not recognizing where we really are in real life
Right.
and what people are dealing with. I just went and got Cohen a Happy Meal from McDonald's yesterday. It was almost $6 for a kid's Happy Meal.
time out.
I've not
No,
been
you
to
don't understand.
McDonald's in like 3 years, 4 years, just
Yes.
going through the drive-through, and I went, wait, it's almost $6
If
for
I
a
get-
Happy Meal?
My family of 5 to go to
happened?
McDonald's is $48.
Yeah, it's like
That's my family of 5 at McDonald's.
When did this happen? That shocked me.
And so
And-
for me, it's just so offensive to
Yeah,
these
not-
kitchen table issues. I think that both parties need to get their act together on talking about abortion, however you want to talk about it,
Immigration.
immigration,
We have a plan.
and both parties need to get real about like immigration. For me, it's one of those topics that has gone like I can't even believe that we're talking about it the way that we're talking about. We
Yeah.
used to talk about a wall.
Yeah.
Now we're talking about whether or not illegal immigrants should be like housed in
Paying taxes
schools
or-
or paying taxes. Should they be able to vote? And it's like, and then you like ignore the fact of all the fentanyl, you know, issues that are coming across. It's like, for me, I'm just telling you, where I would really like someone to talk about how can you make an American citizen's life better over the next 4 years? Because I'd like to ask you a question, both of you a question,
Sure.
and be honest with me. What is a material way, a tangible way, that your life as an American has gotten better over, you can say, the last 4 years and even the last 20 years? Like, how has your life gotten better? What's a government program that has affected you for the positive, or a government elimination of a program that's affected you for the positive?
Well,
Anyone?
okay. During COVID, they gave out free checks.
Right. Anything else, though?
So,
I'm
They're-
talking
they're-
to middle-class people
they're
right now.
redoing 70 and 71. That might be helpful.
Anything else?
I mean, the first thing that comes to my mind is a negative.
Yeah.
It's hard to think of anything positive.
I mean, the biggest negative that comes to mind is just like, okay, what hits me, you know, day to day, month to month life is health insurance and Obamacare.
Mhm.
I think it was well intended, but man,
Yeah.
it
drove the
health
prices
insurance
up.
sucks now.
It drove the price up through the roof.
Um,
Health insurance, I would say rent, but I'm just saying in general when I look,
all
I'm
the
not
negatives.
for me because I'm locked in, but when I look at like my kids trying to get a house someday and you look at the cost for apartment rent and it's just kind of run rampant.
people can't.
The
even buy cars
inflation
now.
is just kind of run rampant.
Mhm.
So, yeah,
Any government program that has benefited your life. Let's even talk about the last 20 years.
I mean, here's the thing. It's hard for me to probably connect the dots. I guess my benefit of the doubt, don't know if it's warranted or should, because I imagine that there are certain things that different presidents, I'm saying over the last 20 years, have done that have, I would say, either made the economy better, that I've benefited from, that have, you know, whether it's the stock market going up and
Sure.
I've got retirement stuff, so hopefully that's going to be better. It's hard right now because I'm not reaping that at the moment and not taking it. So I can't, there's not much that I can directly look at.
So it's
And
like
just-
life's been pretty much the same, other than
Yeah.
one big change is health insurance
Yeah.
for everybody that was paying for it before. There might be benefits to people who don't have it, but it became unaffordable families.
Very
My
expensive.
family, if I were to go get private health insurance right now,
It's
for my
insane.
family of 5, I'd pay $1,800 a month
Yep.
on the private market, right?
Yeah.
And luckily, my wife's in the military. That's amazing. You know, we get family coverage, but unaffordable. And so my property taxes on my house just went up 25%. Homeowners insurance has went up 75%.
Has your value gone up though with it? Like this is what I
Sure.
wrestle with.
Sure.
I wrestle with it because my property taxes have more than doubled since we moved into our house.
Sure.
But I also look at it and go, the valuation of my home has probably doubled too.
Sure. And there's inflation. There's prices that go up. Everything. All I'm saying is that you asked me like, what do I care about for this upcoming election? And I go to that question. What has been the most effective thing in my life? Right. What have I felt the most? And for me, that's peace. No wars.
Yeah.
Notice that when there was no wars,
Yeah.
our economy just exploded.
Sure.
When there is wars, my personal opinion is that a lot of people see a lot of money.
There
That,
are people that do.
That
But not us.
oh yeah, I still saw like Kellyanne Conway was registered as a foreign agent for Ukraine. Do you know why?
Oh. Mm-mm.
I mean, the only reason I saw somebody ask that question live to Donald Trump Jr. on a stream has to be because she gets money from Ukraine. Part of the 8, right? We said, and you hear these numbers that we send to Ukraine. Not that they shouldn't be defended, not that they shouldn't be at war.
Sure.
And then you say, oh well, to the people of Maui, whose entire island got freaking ravaged by wildfires, we paid each person $700, each resident.
Yeah.
And then we send however many hundreds of billions of dollars to a foreign adversary when we're not even willing to talk to the. It's like, I don't know. For me,
So you're
peace
more
in
of
the
an
world.
isolationist.
No,
I mean,
no,
you're
I'm not an isolationist.
Okay.
I am for peace in the world.
Sure.
Do you really feel
And
like,
against
not
corruption.
to open up a whole, but you mentioned earlier, and I watched the RNC. I tried to watch a little bit of both, but I watched the RNC and I watched the opening video, which I'm getting in. And so I know a big talking point is under him, no wars. You really, of all the talking points, I think I struggle with that one the most, of connecting those dots.
Why? Because there was no wars for him.
Yeah, I think several things. I think one. I mean, let's look at Israel and Hamas. That you're talking about 1,000-year conflict, 100-year conflict, and I don't think any of them. I don't think the extremist terrorists could care less who is in office in America, and they've attacked.
They feel it.
They've attacked. I don't think.
You know why?
Why?
Because they're funded.
Yeah.
When in the 4 years under Trump, he says this, and he's right. They were broke because we cut off all funding to Iran, who funds all of the proxy terrorism in that region. And so one of the main distinctions, and the Biden campaign comes out and says it, that they're going to try to work on relationships with Iran. They're going to open back up some funding. So there was all this stuff locked up, and okay, well, we're going to release that again. What do you know? A couple months later, Israel gets attacked. And that's not hearsay. Like, that's actually just what happened.
Yeah.
In my mind, wars are economically fought, right? There's economic, there's religious context to it, but you can't fight a war if you're broke,
Yeah.
right? And someone has to fund these countries to go fight wars. And so, in my mind, there is a video of President Trump at the time at a G7 maybe, and he's talking to the Germans
I saw that one.
about
I saw that one.
why in the world
They bought oil from Russia.
the
The
pipeline,
majority of their
and
pipeline.
it's like they're getting all their energy.
Yeah, from Russia.
And you should watch that conversation.
I did.
And how he
I've
managed
seen
that
it.
conversation.
He's actually that one made me go, that's the kind of leader that you need
Yes.
to do with international, because he basically just does not pull punches and basically says, why are you you're an idiot for doing this. He didn't say it those terms, but he's very direct. He's like, we're not going to support you if you keep doing this.
Okay, so challenge me on this. I especially after the debate, right? There's a side of me. I think I've tried to be very clear on this. These last several elections have just been torturous for me because I have different but almost equal issues with both sides. But the strength thing coming out of that debate with Trump and Biden, I'm like, man, I don't want Biden on the stage with world
I couldn't
leaders.
imagine him in that conversation.
so like just from a strength standpoint, I thought after that debate, I'm like, man, I would want somebody like Trump. And I give him credit after the assassination attempt, watching that visceral instinct of that grit in him that rises up. Like I would never, you can't take away from that. So there's time it's like, man, I want that kind of, strength on the world stage. But then here's where I am torn, even aside from whatever you think on policy or whatever else, is I feel like strength is sabotaged by insecurity and ego.
Yeah.
So people are like, okay, well,
so you're saying, in lack of a better term, he is an egomaniac narcissist.
Yes.
Which I agree with.
I think he is.
But so here's the nitty gritty.
I also think Joe Biden's an egomaniac narcissist. I honestly think you have to want to be president of the United States.
I don't disagree that there's got to be a little bit of a level of narcissism to say I should be the leader of the free world. I don't disagree with that. I think there are drastically different measures of that. I wouldn't, regardless of what you think of policy, I don't think President Obama and President Trump conduct themselves in the same ways or have the same mindsets when they walk into rooms with foreign leaders. And then you can see that play out. So my point is, whereas I see the strength of a Trump, let's say with a Putin, it's like if he wouldn't have invaded if I'm with Putin. But my mind immediately goes to every moment I've watched him fawn over Putin instead of condemn. My mind goes to moments where whoever flatters him, he defers to. So it's like, okay, I see the possibility of strength, but then I also see a pattern over 4 years that he will literally defer to whoever flatters him. I think of moments where he disavowed his own security when they had proven Putin was responsible for things, and a lot of people called it one of the most shameful moments. They were like, well, what do you think? And he was like, they're like, your own security, national security, says Russia's responsible for this. And in front of cameras, he said, yeah, but I mean, Putin said he didn't do it, so why would I not believe him?
Well, I say this.
So my mind goes to that.
I see what you're saying. And for just to address that one point, because I have thought a lot about that. And the hard part is we'll never know the truth of what happens behind closed doors. It's really difficult. I think you have to come up with your opinion about Donald Trump, about whether or not you believe he actually is a good negotiator. You know what I mean? Yeah. And whether or not he is an effective relationship builder. And it's like everybody says, oh well, he loves President Xi. He always talks about the president of China and how great he is and whatever. It's like, yeah, he had him over and fed him chocolate cake at Mar-a-Lago and then slapped a 50% tax on everything coming in from China, tariff. And guess who still has those tariffs today? The Biden administration. They haven't removed any of those tariffs. It's going to ruin the economy. The tariffs are going to ruin the economy. And guess who hasn't removed them? Okay, so those little things make me go, and have you heard, there's so interesting. There's this story that's come out about Trump's meeting with Kim Jong-un. Very controversial. And it talked about how he was telling him, he's like, why don't you just you have this country where you got beaches and you've got mountains, and he tried to sell economics as a way for him to open up his country and liberate his people. Right. He's like, you could make money doing this, He's like, I'm in hotels. He had things printed out. He had renderings of what if this beach looked like this, and here's how I did, and that's the business I was in. And here's why don't you just chill out with the nuclear stuff, He just said, why don't you just come to a Yankee game or something like that? Why don't you just? He's like, just chill out. I think it's a man who understands. I just think it's a very interesting way to. It's unconventional, and you have to ask yourself. This is what I ask myself. And we can come to our own conclusion. What's more effective?
Right.
Unconventional approaches like that. Meanwhile, he literally said to him in his first public address, United Nations, Donald Trump, he calls him Little Rocket Man. If you try anything, we'll meet you with death and destruction. There's people in our church that during that time were doing military exercises on the DMZ right there, and their moms were in our church, and they're like, I was so nervous, all this stuff. Yeah. That was what Barack Obama said was the highest tension when he went into office, was that tension. That was the biggest national security threat, was North Korea. And he went in and said, Little Rocket Man, try anything and be met with death and destruction like you've never seen.
But see, to me, that's another point.
He loves Kim Jong-un. He's his best friend. It's like... But
why does he seem to always flatter evil dictators?
But he didn't flatter him. He called him Little Rocket Man, and we'll nuke your country if you try anything, bro.
No,
That's what
but-
he said in the UN.
No, but
And then he goes and meets them. And he goes, "Hey, listen, we don't want that. We don't want to have to do that." He goes, "Well, I got this red button I push." And Donald Trump goes, "Well, my button's bigger and it works." and then he pulls up Elton John on his phone and says, "You know, Rocket Man. Rocket Man." He goes, "You know, Elton John. You know Elton John." You know, I mean, I don't
analogy was
know. I
lost.
mean,
But to me, that was another example because and it wasn't just the UN. He said that it was a tweet. Because remember we talked about this. I joked. I was like, my concern if he gets in office is that within the first 6 weeks he's going to get offended and get insecure about something Kim Jong Un says and tweet, and we're going to be in nuclear war. And within a month, he had tweeted that. I was like, oh my god. But then there was like some warm thing, and Kim Jong Un flattered him, and then it's like he went over there, and so to me that's where I'm like, I mean, maybe you're right. Maybe
But isn't
it's,
this where it's hard to know what's true?
Yeah.
Because
we have to look at results.
because one side is definitely painting not only is if he gets in office that we're going to be in nuclear war, or that they
just,
will. I
just
mean,
to be clear, that didn't come from what was painted. That was my visceral thought.
yeah, right. But I don't know how much of that has been affected by what has been narrated about him through the years versus him actually, threatening. I mean, obviously he did there. He said, "You fired us. You fired them. We're gonna." So this is what's so hard to really understand about Donald Trump. This is why I think the really hard place where I always try to land, and I don't know. It's like I do want to know what they will do policy wise. I really do. I think it's going to come down. I think this election, especially with Kamala Harris coming in so late, and even Donald Trump complaining like, "We spent all this money to destroy Biden, and now..."
Is that why you think you're so mad? Because you know what's
he is mad about that.
Here's what's funny is
he wanted Biden to stay in.
Our last podcast was right after the assassination.
Yeah, we said he hadn't said a word.
And we were like, the whole thing was, it's unity from here on out. It's unity. We're going to cut back on the divisiveness. And like a week later when Biden stepped out, I mean, Trump's... Usually, even if you have an enemy, once they bow out, there's a little bit of like, like a softening of like, okay, well, I mean, his tweet was just shredded him. I mean,
you think so? Because I listened to an interview, and he was talking about, he was almost defending Biden to a bit. He goes, they wanted him out. They wanted him out. He goes, I saw after there's this big fundraiser where Barack Obama and Joe Biden and Bill Clinton, I think, were in New York, Radio City Music Hall. Lizzo was there. It's a huge thing. And Barack Obama like guided him off the stage, and like literally,
he'd fall.
Come on,
Yeah,
come on, bro. And Trump was like, he didn't have to do that. He knew what he was doing there. He did not. He made him look bad there. And like,
but Trump has too. He's tried to make him look horrible.
sure.
but he's saying his own people in his own party.
Right.
Yeah,
He's
Yeah.
saying
Yeah.
that that's where he's saying
is
that
that
this
they're
is kind of
setting
like
him
leading.
up.
They were setting him up
And,
too.
he shouldn't have been run in the first place, which I do think, and the polls have shown that most Americans are like, let this dude stop, like, tell this dude the truth.
He was
Stop being
tanking in the
friendly.
polls.
Oh my gosh.
They wanted him to go
Yeah.
away. I mean,
But
peacefully.
I think it's
for his
funny.
sake.
It's just to be completely upfront with my view on things. I want peace. I want somebody who acknowledges the economic troubles that people go with. And the answer isn't just free everything. Like, I agree with free school lunches and breakfast. Totally agree. I agree with spending money on education, how we do it, through what agency, whatever. I'll let people who are smarter than me discuss that. And I think that the tangible difference, like the best economic time we ever had as a country in my lifetime, I lived through 2008. Had a parent who lost a job in 2008, would live through that whole thing. Like the first Trump 3 years of his presidency, it was really good in our country. Whether or not it was a continuation of Obama, or, I don't care what it was.
Yeah.
All I know is like what I can taste and see and feel.
Yeah, the economy under President Trump was good.
And I think it was because there the peace. There was a peace element to it. And so when there's peace, there's less, in theory, government spending, right? On, we have to defend, we have to arm all these nations, we have to whatever. Everyone do me a favor. This is interesting. I did this to my brother. I said, Google the amount of foreign aid we give to countries.
Oh, I've seen it before. It's insane.
$63 billion we give every year to countries. Did you know that Ethiopia receives $1.3 billion a year in foreign aid?
Yep.
Oh, it is nuts.
Oh, I've seen it. I've seen some of the countries in different places all over when you go, wait, we give that much to them for what? And
I would also
security. Some of them are security, and
I would encourage people to listen to the Trump tapes book. Bob Woodward. He's not I think he's a good journalist. But in that he's not very friendly to Trump, and he said that an amazing thing happened. I asked if I could write a book on Trump, and you'll probably fillet me up and down, but yeah, I'll do it because I respect you. And he had built this friendship with Bob Woodward, and would call him randomly from the White House. And so this book is the conversations between the phone recordings from Trump and Bob Woodward, and it's like the whole presidency. And like when COVID comes and all those real-time things, like it's the behind-the-scenes look at all of that stuff. It is extremely fascinating, and it will give you a great baseline and a look into how Donald Trump looks at the world. And there's some bad things in there, but then there were some good things, like how he looked at that foreign aid and where he spent the money. And he's like, why do we give Egypt $700 million and they're not doing a thing for us? Like, they're not doing a thing for us. And so, because I tell them, like, you do this or we're pulling our aid. Like, accept the refugees or we're pulling our aid.
Yeah. You can get people to.
And when he talks about, like, he does that with countries and then they go, okay, yes, sir, we will. That's exactly what happens, because a lot of times we're giving aid, like, almost equivalent to, like, no, maybe not equivalent. I'm probably misspeaking. A very significant portion of their GDP comes from foreign aid from the United States.
Yeah.
What? And he leverages that. I like that.
Yeah.
If you're going to do it, leverage it. That's fascinating. I do think that to wrap up, because I know we got to wrap up, and it's just kind of a fascinating conversation of what's going on in the political landscape and how do you process it. And I think the one thing moving forward, regardless of what happens this election and beyond, I think that we are on a trajectory that this is never going to get better unless there is some kind of overhaul of our government system. But I also don't know how that's possible, because it changes hands, and who's like, you've got, like, I'm curious, just a real quick one. What do you guys think of one of the things that Joe Biden tried to put in? He's trying to initiate a Supreme Court reform. And one of them was, I think, 18-year term limits, not for life term limits that were on it. And I think back to Scott Galloway, who's just fascinating. Again, he's going to have a very maybe different take on a lot of things than I might, but I think he's very sharp. He's very smart, and he has come out and said, like, all the money is being held by basically rich white people in the government. And old rich white people in the government. People are sticking around for a really long time. And so he has mentioned, like, actual solutions for reform, which is that you make them sign NDAs and things that they basically can't earn money off of their job in there. It's like Nancy Pelosi. Like, you can't make money on there. If you can, it would be illegal. But you also need to pay them really well. So don't do the typical, they make $100,000 a year, and for that, it's like, he's like, if you're in this, pay them $1 million a year, pay them something like this, but make them something, because what it's interesting is you bring that up, and again, I don't dig into all this stuff, but even Scott Galloway he looks into all that stuff, and the amount of money that people in the government are making on their own from deals. Because that's how lobbying works. That's you know what I mean? Like, you scratch mine, I scratch yours, you help get this through, and I do this. They're making so much personal wealth that and his big thing is he's made a ton of money. I don't know how Scott Galloway's made all his money, because he's talked about paying like $16 million in taxes. And he's not saying that he shouldn't, but he kind of advocates for the middle class and below, and it's just like, there's got to be a way for
I'm sure you've dug
people.
into him.
Have you looked at any of Scott Galloway stuff? It's fascinating stuff.
I mean, I love his views on most things. It's not a Christian worldview.
No,
not at all.
He's very left-leaning Democrat too. I mean, he's no bones about it.
Type, but I really, it's almost like accidentally Christian in some ways.
Some of his views
Did
are
you
like
listen to him on Kerry Newhoff?
Kerry Newhoff was amazing.
So Kerry Newhoff had him on, and I mean,
that was a fascinating conversation.
They talked about faith.
Yeah,
and Kerry almost hinted afterwards, which what's funny.
What did he hint about?
He almost hinted afterwards that they had a post podcast conversation.
Yeah.
And you could tell Kerry's being careful how he said it, but almost like basically saying, I think he's close.
Yeah.
In fact, on the podcast, he said, didn't he say something like, I think you're closer to the kingdom? Or I don't know.
Scott Galloway, like when you talk to him about faith and all this, he has just been more turned off by the church. And so when Kerry would talk about, well, I agree, and this is what I think, church, he'd just be like, I wish the church had more people like you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and he believes in giving away 10% of his income, and he's not for spiritual reasons.
Yeah.
But he was like, I just feel like that once you reach a certain amount, that you don't have more joy just with more money, and that you should give away. Some of his concepts do line up with some Christian values.
I'll tell you a fun debate.
From a very different perspective.
I'll tell you a fun debate. You know, it's interesting. When I first listened to Scott Galloway, I'm like, oh, he's the new Simon Sinek.
Yeah.
Well, those two just did a podcast together and debated the entire time. Like, you can tell they're friends, but they debated the entire time. That was fascinating. You know who I'm surprised you've not brought up?
Yeah.
RFK. I know we got to wrap up. But
Yeah, we need to wrap up.
I don't know. I think that I think what's really good. That's all the stuff. Like, I'm really mad about all the misinformation on both sides, and I am mad at our choices in general. I'm mad at the state of politics in general. I'm mad at legacy media. I'm mad at the network, news channels. Like, it's icky to me. I'm mad at how little Americans feel the results of their government and feel the impact of whatever. But I'm extremely excited about the future. Whoever wins. Like, we are having actual debates again. I think I keep bringing up his name, but Joe Rogan, Scott Galloway, Gary Newhoff, whatever. I mean, it is the dismantling of what 10 years ago didn't even seem possible. How are you going to overtake like these
Traditional
big
media.
money, corporations that come in? Yep. But right now we're having real conversations. Yep. Like, we can sit here and have a conversation.
With solutions.
Yeah, we can sit here and have conversations. We have, whatever you think of him, the Twitter purchase, I think, was a huge deal. And these independent journalists going and auditing the FBI and the relationship with Facebook. Like, we have mediums where journalists can hold power to account like we haven't seen ever. And I think that's so healthy. And I think we have a young generation that is getting smart because they'll grow up with this stuff so they can weave through a lot of this negativity. And I hope that we have a American church, for the most part, that can look past certain political things and love the person sitting to the left or the right enough to open their ears to listen.
Yeah.
So, and you can say, I disagree. We'll probably vote for different people, but let's go hang out, man. Let's go. I pray for you. Like, and I want your kids to do great, and I want your family to do great, and I want your wife to do great, and I'll pray for your grandpa who's sick. And I hope that we're there.
Yeah.
So I'm excited about that. What about you guys?
I just did what you said.
Yeah, I did.
I really do.
Yeah.
I think it's. Obviously we're part of the ministry and do it, and I look at these kind of moments as, I don't think that politics will ever be the answer. I do hope things get better. I think I want to say not scary part, but where I've seen a transfer that I think is concerning for me is that there is such a massive distrust because of what's happened. And I think some of the things have been exposed. Donald Trump was a big part of he trying to expose that with media and other things, that I think that carries over to other areas. So I think that we also deal with the repercussions of that. I think that people have a natural distrust, not only government, but they'll have a natural distrust of church.
Yeah, for sure.
They'll have a natural distrust of organizations, institutions, which church becomes one. So I think it feels like we're all going to be fighting against this a little bit, And so that's why I'm like really, I don't know. I don't see a solution, but I'm really like, is there a way to ever restore trust in maybe it will just never be in organizations, but what we could do is get to the place of trusting people. And the way you trust people is that they're consistent, that they're integrous, that their life and their words line up, that what they say they're going to do, which we don't normally get with politicians. Politicians promise the moon and deliver very little, and they know that doesn't matter because all they have to do is promise. They get in the office and they're made, right? I think hopefully we'll see some type of turn with future politics and other things where the people coming up through the ranks will be people that actually want to fix what's broken, and they will do it not in a divisive way. Because I think Donald Trump maybe had that intention. There was a part of me that was super excited about Donald Trump coming off The Apprentice and other than going, it would be so nice to have somebody who's not Washington bred.
Yeah.
You know, then he gets in office and then he does stuff that's like, oh, just cringeworthy. And it's like, don't say that. Can someone just take his Twitter account away? You know, I met someone of his own family.
That's
like,
funny,
I'm not saying God.
Now that he's not on
did.
Twitter, I think he's more tolerable.
Say what?
Now that he's not on Twitter,
Yeah,
that's,
it definitely.
he should never get back on Twitter.
It definitely helps, but and so there's.
So much more
I think we're kind of left of a choice of. I think we're. I think we're kind of left of a choice of like, do you vote on character or on policy and performance? I think that's what this election is going to come down to. And I think most of what we're going to hear for the next 4 months is going to be character assassination on both sides. And very little policy.
It's just most
knowing.
people you can't know character.
Huh?
It's like hard to even believe any character.
Well, it's hard to know what to believe.
You don't know what to believe.
We don't know what to believe.
You don't know what to believe.
So it's
there's character assassination, and there's the patterns you watch people.
Sure.
You know.
Sure.
And then I think that's also like what policies matter most to you.
Yeah.
Because you know a lot of Americans say, well, these are the three that matter. And
I
then,
think
of course,
economics is going to be a really big one, and I think the war is connected to that. I do. I think immigration is going to be another one. I think we probably are more insulated from it than southern states, who have felt the effects of it worse than we have in Ohio. And so I think that's going to be an interesting talking point. And so,
isn't it amazing that we are where we are? And I think there's certain topics that they don't want to fix. There's certain issues that the government as a whole doesn't want to fix because it wins them elections.
Yep.
Like immigration is one of them.
Like we saw that. Yeah.
How do we not fix? Like
I know.
Do people not agree that we should have a legal system for people who want to come in to get in? Do people not?
Yeah.
Like I think everybody agrees on that.
Yeah.
I mean, what we do with the people?
I don't think everybody.
But
does,
what we do with the
believe it or
people
not.
that are there's certain.
I think there are certain pretty far leaning to one side that does not think that.
But would it be a great system for like companies that want to hire workers and there's a legal way to get documentation for these workers to come in? They get a temporary driver's license. They can pay taxes temporarily, and like they're visiting here, like we have a visa system. Like we want people to do that, but both sides have had super majorities and been unable to fix it.
I know.
And it's like
Donald Trump did build some portion of a wall.
Yeah, and
I
then
don't know how much.
And then the Biden administration, true fact, like true story, sold the rest of the wall for scrap. That was sitting there waiting to be installed.
Material.
The other wall, the big steel slats and stuff, they're sitting there. They like stopped installation as they would go and sold the remaining for scrap.
Yeah, I think that we need. I think we need to. I think we need. My personal feeling. This has nothing to do with. I think we need to have borders, and I think they need to be protected. But I do want to also know that what has made our country what it is that it was opportunity, the Statue of Liberty for people that are outside of it. So it's like it kind of feels like it's going to. I wonder if it's going to follow eventually. Marijuana. Yeah. This is so weird, right? Illegal. We're throwing people in prison forever because they have a little bit of marijuana.
Not a voting
and then all of
issue.
a sudden it turns, and now people are like voting on it, which just became available, I think, like a couple days ago.
Yeah, yesterday.
For recreation. Yesterday for recreational here in Ohio. And
you said that
whoa. You said you were standing in line. And what I'm wondering is like, when will immigration turn at some point from being one of those real taboo things to somebody,
Well, it seems like the extremes right now. The left says it's not a problem. We don't need to fix it. And then
the left can't say that because Joe Biden just did an executive order because it was such a problem.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Well, that surprised me. He ended up taking what was a little bit more of a moderate twist on it. And then to your point, what was it, 3 or 4 months ago, that he had like a bipartisan bill, but President Trump said,
I wouldn't sign.
He said he convinced all of them not to sign it, so that's what I'm going to run on.
Sure.
But it seems like on the extremes, the far left is like, oh, it's not a problem. We don't need to fix it. Whatever. Right. We don't need a system. Yeah. And on the far right, the issue I have is it's like, oh, we need that to fix it. We need to fearmonger and be xenophobic, and just call them all illegals.
I think that was the argument 4 years ago, until you get to now, when literally we have confirmed terrorists on the global terror watch list that have come into the country, and you've got CIA agents talking about this Pakistani national that just got arrested by the FBI, plotting to kill Donald Trump and other top government officials. Like,
well, Iran.
But you can
Iran
talk
said
about
they were going to put a hit out on.
But
him.
here's my
Yeah.
point. You can talk about the threat of just an unguarded border without a prejudiced, xenophobic whitewashing of the normal person that is literally just trying to come over for a better life.
so that's a great.
That's what I'm
This
saying.
is a great point.
Yeah.
This is a great point. Donald Trump, and I'm trying to not come across. I've really tried to do my research to see if what people say about him is true, and a lot of a certain section of it absolutely is true. This dude has a very public documented life. I wonder if there's ever been a president who has employed more immigrants than Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Ever been a president who's employed them?
Well, I mean, if you look at the hotel industry, I mean, yeah, you're probably right. Probably not.
But
I don't know that would. I don't know that would make a. I don't know that
In
anybody.
what way are they employed because of him? Like, tell me why.
They
Just
work for his
because?
company.
Yeah.
Oh, you mean his company?
Yeah, they
Okay.
work for his company.
Okay, I didn't know if you meant as a president, more immigrants were employed
No,
in
no, no, no,
America.
no, no.
I wasn't
No, no, no.
following
I know
you.
you
Not that,
I
but
didn't
yeah,
know
like
what you were saying.
he literally employs them, right?
Okay, sure.
And it's this circular argument. It's like chicken or the egg. So I watched an old debate on J.D. Vance and Paul Ryan. They were in for Ohio State Senate, and it was when they were talking about that 10-year-old who couldn't get the access to the abortion that her family she
Yeah.
got.
She went
She had
next
raped.
state.
She had been raped, and so JD, your opinions or whatever your stance, like that little girl has to carry this baby to term, blah 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 blah, and which is a good point. And then he turns around and goes, "You know what? I actually believe in the exceptions." That's what he said. Whether or not he actually believes it or has contradicted statements, he goes, "Did you know that she was raped by an illegal immigrant who shouldn't even have been in the state of Ohio legally, but we're not enforcing our laws?" And so it's like this chicken or the egg,
Sure.
like horrible. That's why I'm saying we have these issues that I don't know if anyone from the entire party really wants to fix these issues. That why haven't we fixed them?
But
Yeah.
did you see the stat?
Why haven't we addressed it?
Because I guess what was the most recent phrase that's been coined is migrant crime.
Yeah.
Right. But did you see the stat that it's actually gone down under this last administration? Like if you were to listen to one side, it's like it just seems hysteria. It's the crime is everywhere. But statistically, supposedly, it's actually down.
Well, you'll have to show me the stat because I haven't seen a stat yet that's not like saying during the COVID year, this COVID years of Trump, comparing every stat against the COVID year. Like, so I'm definitely open to see. And they have absolutely, the Democrat Party has been saying crime's actually down, which I hope is true. I hope it is true.
Well, there was a lot of crime that was way up in 2020.
Right.
So is it hard for a crime to be down after 2020 when you take office
That's-
in 2021?
that's my big
That's
question.
the thing. It's just it's
It's
hard
like,
to know if the
You
numbers
say
are
crime's
really,
down and jobs are up. It's like, well, yeah.
Yeah,
And they show
there's
these
a lot of
charts.
people out of-
Trump lost a historic amount of jobs. It's like, but anybody who's paying a lick of attention during
Yeah,
his presidency.
we know what it was like before.
Right.
And
Knows that
during
we were down
COVID.
to the record low unemployment, and then COVID hit, and then everybody lost their job,
Very
and then
true.
everybody's
Yes.
coming back. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I guess, you got to navigate that stuff for yourself. And I get angry at the people presenting facts that aren't facts, but I guess I have to get over that because that's the way of the world right now. But
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
an interesting time. We will see. We
Yeah.
shall see.
It's
what happens.
interesting. You bring up great points. It's because I get so frustrated at President Biden and Kamala at what I come to find out are lies.
yes.
What I get really frustrated about President Trump has nothing to do with the spin.
Yeah.
It's what I watch
Yes.
with my own eyes and what he
Sure.
says and what I hear him
Sure.
say
Yes.
and the spirit he brings.
Totally agree.
Yep.
So you got to decide
So
which one bugs
which
you
one?
less.
Which one? Yeah.
Yeah. Is there one that's more cynical than the other? Is
Yeah.
there one that's more destructive than the other?
Yeah.
Or are they one and the same?
Yeah.
Hard. Very hard stuff. But this is just like old times, guys.
Yeah.
It's good to sit and go around and
I don't know if this is even helpful for anybody listening other
I
than
just have had
us.
no place to vent, you
Yeah.
know. So Andrew doesn't want to talk about that stuff, but you
well.
guys, man, this is fun.
It's fascinating.
Yeah.
It's gonna be an interesting few
Yeah.
months.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what'd be really fun? We need to have a
Election live stream.
Yeah.
Live stream podcast we record while it's going on.
Yeah.
That could be
We
interesting.
need to have another political one with you and watch you and PZ talk about some of these things.
Absolutely.
That will be fun.
Bring it on.
All right.
Might create some comments.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it'd be fun. does.
Nobody wants to debate me.
PT, give us for those watching, part of our faith community, the spiritual reason. Why are we having
this conversation? Well, we are forced to live in this world.
Yeah.
And so how are we going to navigate it? I'll just go back to one of the things you said, which is I hope we can have an American church where we can sit with people that we disagree with on policy, on the candidates, that we can say, hey, let's go out and grab coffee. Can I pray for you?
Yeah.
Like at the end of the day, I think one good thing from all of our rambling about the current political state is that if we have conversations like this and hopefully we can normalize what it looks like for people to have healthy conversations about the current political state of our country.
Yeah.
Because I feel like everything is just so emotionally packed that there's anger behind everything.
Yeah.
And I think just takeaway thoughts is just recognize, first of all, don't think everything about whatever party you lean toward is correct and that you're not being fed some lies.
Right.
Because it's happening on both sides.
Yeah.
Don't think that whatever one source you're getting your news from is all 100% true. Because there's probably there's a tainted picture that is being painted. It's just kind of like Tucker Carlson's like, well, 4,000 times you said this in your thing. I never said that. It's you've twisted it to that. This is what I actually said. So you want to go back and show me, that's fine. I can because this is what I believe. I think we need to be cognizant of that. We just need to be aware of it. And don't let that kind of anger fuel passion. I mean, it's great to be passionate about stuff. Don't let it ruin your witness if you're a follower of Jesus. Yeah. If I could just say, if there's one thing that's to take away, don't let it ruin your witness this season. Yeah. Like, have your thoughts and your opinions. If you can talk about them in a context like this and we can have fun debating them and it doesn't break relationships, then fine, do that. But don't do it at the cost of family and relationships and, and let's just go through this. I think it'll be peaceful. However it goes.
100%.
I think it's going to be peaceful.
Oh,
I really do.
And what great TV.
Yeah. I do hope there is
watching.
a Donald Trump Kamala Harris debate. I'll be watching. I do hope there is. I'll be watching.
It's fascinating. And the vice president, even I think historically vice presidents don't
debates,
matter at all, but like
they need to.
Wow, what a great thing, Have Elon Musk.
He's that guy who loves
debate.
the
Have Joe Rogan. I was like,
I was gonna say, I kind of want to just end this podcast with quoting Kevin. Oh, the pageantry.
Oh, the pageantry.
The pageantry.
The pageantry.
That we should name this podcast.
The pageantry.
The pageantry. All right. Well, I hope this podcast has deepened you spiritually and has just spoken to you right where you are. But if this has been, I don't know, if this has helped you process it all, share it with somebody. And until next week, we will see you then. And we just plan as much as possible to hopefully be a therapeutic place to process as we go into this election season and just have conversations. And honestly, that really helped me over COVID, is having certain podcasts I would listen to that would make me feel less alone.
Yeah.
And that I could listen. This is probably dangerous, but we've had people tell us, I don't watch the news. I get all my current events, my news from listening to you guys. And I'm like, I don't know if that's good or bad. But, anyways, we're just talking. So we will see you next week.
Hey guys, it's Russ. Thanks so much for listening. We really believe if we can get around tables instead of behind screens, if we can talk to each other instead of at each other, we can make the world better. To help us do that, here are a few things you can do to help. First, if you haven't yet, leave a review on Apple or Spotify and hit subscribe on YouTube. This helps more than you know. Also, if you have been impacted by the community out of which this podcast comes, that's X-Church. Maybe you're local or you've been touched by the messages and impact across the country, even the world. I want to encourage you to support this work. A powerful life principle is to invest in the people and places that invest in you. And so I want to invite you to do that right now by going to thex.church/give. You can give a one-time small gift, a sacrificial gift, or even become a recurring partner. Together, let's keep elevating the conversation, thinking higher, loving deeper, and making the world better. Cheers.